This is deliveranceministry.fm VideoCast episode 19. Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of deliveranceministry.fm, where we give you proven insights about the demonic realm and deliverance ministry so you can wage spiritual warfare more effectively. My name is Dr. Don Ibbotson, and I'm here with my colleague, Dr. Phyllis Tarbox. Got an interesting topic today, Phyllis. Something that people, or clients, if you like, that the Lord's been bringing us. And it really has to do in the realm of dealing with children and self-injuring or self-cutting.
Yes, yeah.
And we've seen a lot of that over the past little while, right? You have more.
Yeah, well, I knew it was on God's heart because in 1 week, I think I had 4 telephone calls from moms. Actually, I had 7 telephone calls from moms in 1 week, and 4 children actually came in that were self-injuring.
Wow.
So once that happened, it put me into a boot camp very quickly with the Lord because I needed to know how to help these young ones, all right?
Well, that's a sign that it's the Lord. That's how we got started really in deliverance ministry, because over the course of a very short season, I mean like weeks, we went a long time with no kids, it seemed like in the earlier days, but all of a sudden, bang, like one after the other, the Lord started bringing us children who needed deliverance. And it's like, okay, I guess really need to develop something here in the realm of children's deliverance. It's the same sort of thing that happened with this realm of cutting, right? Just in short order, people started coming through the door. And so did a lot of research on that, right?
Yeah, I did.
Learned a lot.
I did. I read like a lot really fast, and I had to understand from their perspective what was going on. And the good thing about it was, a lot of times and we're talking like 10, 12, and 13, sadly, when that group comes in, that group, before they hit the 14 and 15-year-old mark for me, are quite chatty and usually still pretty affectionate, and they wanted help. So I was really blessed with the ones that came in. I think about them very affectionately even now, because they helped me help them.
Well, we're going to try to pass some of that information on to you as parents maybe listening to this, because it is a topic. It is a phenomenon, I guess you'd have to call it, that's really growing. In fact, there's some statistics that says that the children who are doing this, they call it an epidemic that has doubled literally probably over the last few years, right? 2 or 3 years are seeing children that are really dealing this. And, and so, well, why do you think, I mean, from your perspective, what do you think's been happening why this is more prevalent in this age group?
Well, I think it's getting younger because they don't have the ability to really understand or articulate their pain. So they can't go get on antidepressants. They don't know how to express to their parents what's wrong. Why are they feeling so sad? And so there's a non-communication of something new for them, this sadness or this pain that they feel in their heart. And so they take matters into their own hands. And sadly, that's an influence that's coming from other children in their age group that now they're talking about it with their peers. Well, I know somebody who's had that problem, and, they've used blades to kill their emotional pain. And so I've watched the age of this, because even though we didn't start working with the children on this right from the get-go, I've had like the 18 to 20-year-old group that was coming in. I think one of the first ones, she was a college senior. No, she was a college freshman that came in, and she had been cutting. But since then, I've watched this go down now, like I said, all the way down to 10 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's, and so you say basically it's a non-talking way or non-communication form of trying to deal with their own pain. That seems to be
and that age group, with that age group, that pre-adolescent, that adolescent age group, they're going from, being mommy's little girl or mommy's little boy, to an area of now where they're starting to get independent, and there's a lot going on in them, and they don't know how to articulate it. They don't know how to speak it out. And so this has been an answer, sadly, that's been introduced, and I believe it's been introduced by the demonic realm.
Well, I guess we're probably going to talk about this some, but there's a lot of resources, if you can call them that, on the internet too.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just kids talking to each other in school on their own. I mean, there's places they can go to. And of course, our generation now has access to technology. I mean, I've got a 4 or 5 year old granddaughter, and she can make
they're
that.
skilled.
She can make that iPad just sit up and bark. And so the kids are skilled at finding things. So there's a lot more of that information out there.
Yeah, and we haven't even seen the full internet generation come to maturity yet. I mean, and so these numbers are going to really. I'm not going to speak negatively, but it can become a phenomena that's going to be pretty big. So
let's kind of delve into the topic in some more depth here, and hopefully, as we get toward the end, we're going to give some directions and hopefully help for you as parents that maybe. Especially if you think or suspect even that some of this might be happening to your child. But let's kind of begin by saying what is the nature of some of the aspects of cutting or self-injury that we, typically kids are doing to themselves.
Okay, so here's the recent data on self-injury and what it actually looks like, because it's not, it's not just cutting, but cutting is a part of it. Where they take a blade, an X-Acto knife, or maybe a razor blade, or something sharp that they found, and they begin injuring themselves by making small cuts. Also, burning is a part of it. Or interfering with that wound healing by picking or reopening the wounds. I've noticed that with a lot of them, where they'll come in and they'll just start picking at their old wound because it hurts them, and because they become fascinated with the blood. Punching or hitting themselves or other objects. I've seen that. Or, inserting objects into or under the skin. Purposely bruising or breaking their bones, and certain forms of hair pulling, like pulling their hair out, anything that causes pain, that takes the pain off of their emotions, because if they can deflect the pain onto physical pain.
So they got emotional pain and now they're trying to get it to manifest physically.
Right. And so what happens is the enemy convinces them that, this is helping. It's easing. It's actually easing and softening their pain, because they do get a temporary, basically a temporary high from the endorphins or whatever that it's released when they're cutting. And then their emotional pain calms down for a short period of time. But what they're not recognizing is this is actually amplifying the enemy's hold on them, and they get fewer and fewer breaks of the pain release. And so now they've got this physical go-to place where they hurt, and the emotional is coming back faster. So they're not recognizing this isn't helping long term. It's actually wrapping them in deeper.
Maybe for benefit of maybe someone who's new to this podcast or new to our center and deliveranceministry.fm series, you need to understand when we use the word enemy, we're talking about the demonic realm. We see this as this spiritual problem. So the enemy's not a person. It's not the mom or the dad or a girl at school. It's the demonic realm. Because ultimately at the core, our view is that a lot of these things, what's going on here is there is demonic torment.
Yeah.
And, other podcasts we have talk about the demonic realm, how they operate. And so it's a spiritual struggle. It's not a classic psychological, mental, emotional. The world would have one way of looking at this, and we tend to see this as given that we're in a spiritual battle. Struggles not against flesh and blood, but it's a spiritual issue. So the enemy you're referring to are demons.
Yes.
Demonic realm.
Yes. Yes. So it does start out as an emotional cry for help. I think that's the thing that we need to understand. When your children are doing this is not, I would say in a few percentage of the cases, it could be a suicide attempt, but I would say the majority it does not focus on suicide to begin with. It's really an emotional pain that they're trying to get some satisfaction or some healing to on their own, and they don't know how else to do it. Okay.
So how does it start? I mean, and once again, just by way of explanation, our view is that there are open doors for demonic torment. That demons just can't jump on a person. Right. There's some sort of an entry point. So what have you seen typically as the open doors, if you like, for this type of demonic torment in these children?
Biggest one at that age group is feeling like they don't fit in. Like they don't have friends.
Rejection.
They're rejected. They've got low self-esteem. The enemy's, he's always trying to get the child away from the pack, making them feel like they're abandoned or isolated or rejected, or they don't have any friends, or they're not cute enough, pretty enough, they don't fit in well enough. 50%, a stat shows that 50% of the children who self-injure have been either physically or sexually abused.
Wow, that's substantial. That's big.
But also children who are really high achievers and perfectionists, that's a way for them to cope with emotional pain of maybe not being as perfect as they think they should be. So now you've got, all the temperament types moved into this. You've got the ones that have the low self-esteem. You've got the ones who have the high achieving perfectionist kind of an attitude. So you've got the more laid back, you've got the type A, and then you've got the ones that have been physically and sexually abused. Most of the time, they're females.
So they're girls. That's what I was going to ask, is we see more typically do you have a sense of the ratio that you've seen, or what percentage are young girls as opposed to boys?
I've only seen girls. I mean, I haven't seen any boys come in here. I think the stats on it are overwhelmingly girls. I would say probably I think they're 90% and 10%, because us women, we're wired different than men, right? So
little girls are wired.
Yeah, we have a tendency to internalize anger more frequently than men do. Men would externalize it, or even communicate it in a different way. Probably go out and, do something like play basketball or football, or, beat themselves up with each other. I don't know, but girls don't do that, and we're wired different. And so they look for private places to, handle their pain. So this is it's pretty alarming.
So generally rejection, low self-esteem. It could be rejection even in the bloodline. It could be generational curse of rejection in the family.
Very good point. I've seen that too.
Mistreated, maybe single, born to single mothers, or or not wanted. Even it could be something as simple as a surprise child, right? Not wanted by, or not born to it.
Well, this in the week that I had all these young ones come in, I went the whole gamut. I had one that was sexually abused, one that was a perfectionist, and one that had low self-esteem and didn't fit in. So God gave me the full picture all at once. So there was no two of them were alike that whole time, that whole summer we worked together. So. Yeah.
What sort of thing are parents who are listening to this, mother, father, or even just relative? What are warning signs, or what indicators that the parent should be looking at that this is a potential issue in their child or daughter?
Well, everybody will tell you any kind of change in behavior, including any time that they're spending more time alone. So look for things that are isolating them, spending more time in their room, withdrawing from the family. Number 2 would be, long showers, or spending large amount of time in the bathroom, because you don't know what they're doing in there, and that's not the place where you're going to walk in on them, and they know that. Teens, when they start doing their laundry, I don't know, teens usually let you do that, right? So if they start washing their own sheets and start doing their own clothes when they previously hadn't done that, then you may be suspect that there could be blood on the sheets or blood on their clothes. Yeah.
Possibly. Okay.
Suddenly using large amounts of toilet paper or facial tissue. If you start rolling through it faster than you were before, it could be because again of the blood. Or when they start wearing long sleeves, like in summer, or wearing a lot of bracelets around their wrists to cover up where they've started to cut. If you see new cuts or injuries that appear without a logical explanation, or they're frequently accessing online self-injury groups or websites, you can research that and look and see where their frequented spots are. If they start talking, here's just another, if they start talking about their friends at school that are cutters, and what would they want to talk to you about that other girl, then listen, because generally if they're hanging around with somebody that's using that, they're entertaining that as a thought, as a possibility themselves. So keep your ears open to that sort of thing.
So you've had parents, I guess, usually more times than not, I'm sure the mother many times maybe making the call to come in here, and you meet with the parents, right? You meet with the mother first, and then you maybe meet with the child, or you meet them both together at the same time.
Well, what I like to do is I like to either have a phone call time with the mom, so I can hear the mom's side of the story and what she's found out, and then bring the child in. Or we can, if the child is old enough, the child can sit out in the other room, and I'll have a little bit of time with the mom, a little time with both of them, and then a little bit of time with just the child, so that their heart can be heard. And we kind of wrap that in more as we go, alone time with each, and then together. Well, these children don't necessarily want to talk in front of their parents, but with the younger ones, they still want to talk. See, that's the whole thing. They really want to unburden their heart. They want a place to really share. So they don't want to do it in front of their mother all the time, but so what I found is just breaking the whole session up into bits and pieces, a little alone, little together, a little with one-on-one, and allowing them some time. The child's, I think that's the best way to do it. There's, like I said, that summer where I had all three different, I used different protocol for each one, but a general format of what we were doing. But the first
process, not a recipe.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So it takes, of course, the child admitting it and repenting of it.
They want to have, the child wants to be helped, right?
Right.
It's hard to get help anybody, I guess, who doesn't want a problem, want to be helped. But,
right.
But has that been your experience with the time these little girls come in that generally they say, hey, this is a problem?
Yeah. And really,
help.
I think the best, again, not to say that I haven't had luck with the older ones that are in their 20s, they know better, and they've been probably stuck with some of this behavior intermittently throughout their teens, and they want to be free. The younger ones, the 10, 11, 12, 13, heading into it, we need to catch it at the bud. Sometimes when you get into the 15 and 16-year-old group, they're not quite as open, and they get a little more rebellious about you taking away their form of emotional release. So that's where I think it gets a little bit trickier. But yes, generally you want to have their repentance, you want to have their buy-in, and you want them to be willing. That's what it takes for them. We could say that's a truism of all counseling. This thing, it's hard to help anybody who doesn't want to be helped. And so we want to see that. So that's what you're looking for in the child. But what kind of encouragement or directives do you have for and I know you lead them through a process in terms of deliverance, so there's multiple sessions. We won't be able to get into all of that today, but what is your general direction or things you try to encourage the parents with? Well, I think the parents need to remain calm. Okay. And, stay in a calm and caring, loving relationship with their child and accept them even if you disagree with the behavior that they're exhibiting. Okay. And know that this represents a way of them dealing with their emotional pain. Gotta listen to them. Start spending time.
Sometimes feel guilty. Do they think, it's me? Or maybe you've seen this where it's not all the parents too, right? Do you see sometimes where the parents they've had good upbringings and the kids are getting this somewhere else? Does that sometimes happen?
Oh, yeah. Peer pressure is
peer pressure.
Yeah. And a lot of times with little girls, it could be anything. It could be like the little boy didn't look at them that day the way they want. I mean, it could be anything, but it's a cry for help. It is, bottom line, it's a cry for help. So listening with compassion to them is really key. And don't get panicky or overreact. It's not something that you want to shove underneath the rug at all. You don't want to just ignore it. But I don't want the parents to just, because I'll get the phone calls where they're almost hysterical, because this is a hard thing. It comes out of nowhere. Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure.
But don't panic, don't overreact, and don't show shock or revulsion at what they've done, because, it's really hard for the parents when they see, like, this one little girl had been doing it for a long, long time before the parents had found out. And when she lifted her pant leg to show them, I mean, that's rough on a parent, but you got to really try not to be repulsed or show shock. Okay. Don't use any type of threat in attempt to stop their behavior. In other words, you don't threaten them that you're going to take this away and you take that away, or bribe them. Right. This is deeper than that. So that's not going to work. Don't allow them to start talking about their self-injury experience in detail, because once they start meditating on what they've done and why, it fires up all of those neurons in their brain, and it actually triggers another response of, it could stir up sadness and all over again, and then they'll have another session of cutting. And get help. Okay. Get qualified mental help. Get somebody that can be helping them either in deliverance and counseling, and a safe place for them to share. Okay.
All right. That's okay. That's a good first step. So I know you've had some experiences. We have an approach, or you really developed an approach to try to help these young girls. I mean, maybe you could just kind of give a brief overview of that in terms of the process we use, and then some of the case histories that you've had with some of these girls.
Well, again, it's kind of fluid and moving, but just bringing them in and getting into a place of understanding their heart is the first part. I want to hear what the parents have to say. I want to hear what the children have to say. And once I get a comfort level of a relationship with that child, and we start understanding some of the things that have triggered it, some of the things that have brought it up, then we can kind of tailor a prayer. I'm careful with this, so I have always just let the Holy Spirit walk those. It's not like I can say this is our 6 or 5-step approach. Right. I have a process. We've developed a lot of forms where there's actually a contract between the parents and the daughter.
Some homework you do.
We've got some homework. We've got some ideas of creating safe places and and it eventually leads to praying. Sometimes it's just breaking generational curses. One little girl, I just loved it as I prayed. I prayed very gently for her. And when I say this, it's like maybe 15, 20 minutes I prayed for her. But her tears of repentance, when they landed on my lap, when I was praying for her, I think was one of the most moving things ever, because this little girl she was really artistic. She really wrote her own songs and wrote her own music, and she was desirous to get help. But, she had gotten involved actually in an online web group, which I don't know if some of the parents have actually heard about this, but it's this grouping is something called Jeff the Killer. And it was a young, like a cartoon figure that somehow or another wraps this young age group in with these stories about how these killings and things. And it's an encouragement for him to be their boyfriend, a little 13, you're talking 12, maybe 11-year-old mind that comes across this, and there's an online group. And they have access to cutting with this sort of thing, because when you look at him, this Jeff the Killer, he's completely slashed. So it makes it like cool to be his girlfriend and I don't know, it gets a little
It's very
odd.
dark. I mean,
it is very dark.
You can just hear the spiritual darkness at the root of this thing. I mean, it's just...
Yeah, because once she went and crossed that borderline with just this grouping of Jeff the Killer, it left her accessible.
Like a website. This is a website, isn't it?
Yeah, she actually...
You joined a group or something?
Yeah, she actually then went out and started having online conversations with who she thought was a 16-year-old boy, and my guess would be he was not.
Wow.
So it kind of got her out into the outside world just by the clicks on that website. So not good. And then, of course, the sadness and the darkness and the loneliness started to overtake her, and her cutting was her way of escaping her pain. So that was not good. And then, of course, like I said, the other ones were either sexually abused. And so a lot of that, they had to come in, and I had to get down to understanding a lot of the soul ties that were involved. Certainly the soul ties with the friends and that sort of thing. So
she was cutting to hide the pain from
pain from the sexual abuse.
Sexual abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So it is like I said, we walked it out just step by step, did incorporate some deliverance, a lot of prayer, we have a lot of homework. It's just a different kind of flow with this group. So.
Well, I think it's important to emphasize, as you say, you see the cutting, it's not generally a suicide.
No, it's not.
It's more of that cry for help and dealing with the emotional pain and transferring it over into the physical realm.
But now, if this continues for a long period of time, that's the enemy's agenda, is to take it into a suicidal position when the pain gets too hard. Mm-hmm. Because the older group of kids will say they've heard the enemy tell them to just do it, just kill yourself. You've already got the blade, the door is locked, just do it. So it goes that way because the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy.
And once again, we repeat it often, but it bears to be repeating. These are spiritual things. These voices, this is the demonic realm speaking these things. These demonic spirits, they speak to people. They don't tell them to read the Bible and go to church and help the poor. It's about destruction. They're hurting themselves or hurting somebody else, or both. And so that's the theme of it. And that's what happened is there's the open doors for this demonic spirits. They enter in. We talked about generational curses. There's word curses, ungodly bondings with people. We've talked other things about abuse and trauma in a person's life, and certainly sexual abuse that's an open door for spirits to enter in. So any number of things. So I think it bears repeating. There's just not one quick fix. There's not one thing to pray or do.
Right. But the parents can, certainly lead their children first off into repent and forgiveness. Even there when you get disclosure, just lead the child in an act of repentance for the self-mutilation and have them forgive themselves. Certainly most of this will be handled in the office, but it's good to begin with them with an understanding that they're loved, they're forgiven, and they need to forgive themselves, okay? And then, as a parent, you can break the ungodly soul tie, because what I've seen in counseling, there's usually a friend that suggests the idea. So there's a clear soul tie with that person where they've introduced the idea, and that needs to either be broken. They can do it, or you can do it together.
And then hopefully we tell parents to break off relationship with this person, right? It's staying at school. And that's a problem.
Yeah. It needs to be a disconnection of communication with the contact as well. Yeah. So, and that means like removing their name from their cell phone or Facebook, unfriending them on Instagram and etc. Typically because once you break the soul tie, the enemy is always going to try to reestablish it with some kind of quick contact. So ask them if they have any, this is key, ask them if they have any shared articles with that person, like blades, they share blades.
Clothes even?
Yeah, clothes, jewelry. You don't want them to remain in their possession. So have them get rid of all of that, all the cutting tools. Lots of times what I'll do is when they come in, I have them throw the cutting tools out in front of me. And prophetically, it's good to have them do that. So, or have them do it in front of you.
Have them be part of it and not just have the parents throw them out. Right. What you're saying. They should be part of that process.
Yeah, getting rid of it. Yeah. Okay. And then break any word curses that they have spoken over themselves or that others have spoken over them, along with anything that could be typed, texted, written, journaled, any pacts or vows that they've made of secrecy with each others. Sometimes physical bullying or cyberbullying is present, so be sure to break all or written spoken words that have made them feel bad about themselves, that have caused a lot of this emotional pain, like you're stupid, or you're dumb, or you're ugly, or no boy would ever want you, or you're a loser, or this is the only way. A lot of times they commiserate with each other. This is the only way I can get rid of my pain. This is my pain medication. You want to break all of that. I have a whole list of them in the office.
I'm not sure. Maybe you got more perspective. I don't know if there's more bullying going on than in days and years past, or if we just hear about it more. Well, it's more sensitive.
I think with the internet and being able to come home from school with them, there's a whole lot more time that they can be bullied.
Well,
by
that's
their
true.
friends.
I guess it's not necessarily all face to face at school.
No.
Sometimes in the days before you got home from school,
it was done.
And it was done, at least till the next day. But now, of course, when you've seen instances, you read accounts where people are bullied on Facebook and they get out there. So it's so the level I could certainly see that would be on the increase.
Yeah. Yeah. So. And then, of course, get them to a Christian counselor that's trained in deliverance, okay? And can integrate that process of deliverance with counseling the children. We've just seen it work. So.
Good. Well, we've covered a lot of ground here quickly, and certainly much more we could say, but hopefully it's been helpful for you, give you parents some thinking and some maybe, your ears perked up and your spiritual antenna up, discerning this is a problem in your child's life and giving you some insights on how to proceed. So, we appreciate you listening to this, and once again hope that the Lord has spoken to you through it. And as always, if we can be of help or anything in that realm, if you can't find help locally, please get with us. Sign up on our website to receive the new Academy resources. We've got new resources on the counseling and the Academy website that are free. Subscribe to these podcasts on iTunes, and they're on our website as well. deliveranceministry.fm is the name of it, and on our counseling website you can see there. And as we like to mention, we'd love to have you leave a review for us, because quite frankly, reviews and ratings are key in terms of visibility. And if you simple do that, we'll get you a link for a downloadable copy of our Plain and Simple Deliverance Ministry Manual. It's an ebook and gives an overview of the process that we use. And once again, all that's on the website too. If you can't find that, you can contact us and we'll point you to it. But we would very much appreciate if you would do that. Keep the comments coming in, suggestions for future topics. We're going to keep doing these consistently, and we want them to be of maximum value to you. So